So we're about 2 weeks away from fall. Temperatures are starting to come back down. A lot of you have had struggles throughout the summer, myself included. Today I just kind of want to go over what I do going into the fall season to help recover from a lot of that, and then set myself up for next spring. So let's get into it. So while this year I am not doing any type of overseeding or dethatching or renovation or anything like that this fall, a lot of you are, and some of the things I'm going to go over today that I like to do, you can still do. You just want to do about 45 days after you have any germination. So one of the biggest things I like to do right off the bat, as the soil temperatures are starting to come back down, is I like to go out and look and evaluate how the grass looks. And I noticed in the front yard, since it's been about 6 weeks since I put any fertilizer on it, that it was starting to look a little pale. I can see where the dog had used the bathroom and it was actually greening up instead of killing it and growing a little more vigorously. And that's kind of a sign that the turf could probably use some nitrogen. So one of the first things I did was went ahead and applied ProPete. Now I really like the ProPete. The ammonomical nitrogen in it makes for really good green up. It doesn't even have any iron in it, but the color response is amazing. It's a homogeneous blend, smaller prilled, so it gets a nice good even spread when you're spreading it. Usually I see green up within 3 to 5 days. It'll also push some growth. It does have some slow release in it, so it's a pretty good fertilizer. I've been consistently using it all year long, about every 6 weeks. I've been really impressed with it. The other thing I like to do is address any soil issues from the soil test I did back in the spring. One of those was maintaining my pH levels, and while my pH was in an acceptable range, I do know that because I had applied some lime last year that it wasn't going to last. That stuff, you just got to keep correcting it a little bit. So I went ahead and added a small amount of dolomitic lime. By the time that breaks down, things will kind of balance out. We'll see where I end up in the spring when I do another soil test. So that's something else you guys might want to start thinking about, is soil testing. Kind of time things out so that as we're coming out of winter, going into spring, you want to make sure that you don't really apply any nutrients for about 45 or 60 days, so you can get yourself a good base reading of where you need to be with your soil tests. So something to think about as you're going into winter. I personally will continue applying nutrients through Thanksgiving, sometimes even into December, but then I have to hold back because by late February I want to be doing some soil testing, and I like to get good true readings, so I just don't apply anything for a couple months. The other thing I decided to adjust was my potassium levels were a little low, so I put out some 0,050 sulfate of potash. Don't put a whole lot, just about 1 pound per 1,000 square feet of actual potassium, and I've done that once already this year. This will be the second time. I think that's going to balance me out where I need to be. Again, won't know until the spring, so when the next soil test, we'll see if I need to hit it a little harder. The other thing I like to also do is address any weed problems. Now, I do still have some clover in the front yard, so I'm just going to use a herbicide and spray those out since the temperatures aren't extremely hot, and hopefully that will wipe those out. As your air temperatures come down and you're consistently like in the low 80s, upper 70s, that's perfect time to start addressing any weeds you've had to deal with over the summer. Just keep in mind that some of the products you use, there's a time delay when it comes to like overseeding or seeding, if that's what you're doing. The other thing I also like to do is I like to start putting biostimulants back out more consistently. This week I went ahead with RGS and Aerate and got those going, as well as some CK, or the sea kelp from Green County Fertilizer. I really like to not only push a little bit of top growth, but help with the root growth as well. And the combination of the RGS and Aerate works really well at pushing root growth, and then you add the added sea kelp and nutrients in CK, really does work well for that. It's pretty impressive. And then in a couple weeks, I'll hit it with, maybe Humic 12 and microgreen. Another thing I've kind of adapted to doing with the ProPete is I've started to do like ProPete one weekend, and I will do that every 6 weeks. But in between that, say if I do ProPete this weekend, in 3 weeks, I'll come out and I'll just use like the 1801 Green Punch. It's not a ton of nitrogen, but it does still help keep that color green, a little bit of growth going. And I found that to be extremely effective. Now, here in the backyard, I've been on a fully liquid program, but I'm finding that the combination of the two has actually worked a lot better. So I think going forward, that is exactly what I'm going to do. Use the granular on a 6 to 8 week interval, and in between, right in the middle of that interval, use the liquid to kind of compensate or give it a little kickstart, however you want to call it. So I found that to be extremely effective. I've been real happy with it. I know I've been recently trying that here in the backyard, and the growth has been kind of incredible. I'm already to a point of mowing this 3, maybe 4 times a week just to keep up with it. If you want to see all this stuff and how it progresses, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below, and you'll be able to follow along, and I'll continue to give updates on not only the POA annual problem here in the backyard, but the progress on the front yard as well. Another issue that kind of comes up if you are watering, as we're going into fall and temperatures are coming down, you don't need to water quite as much. I'm already experiencing myself a lot of morning dew. That will help with some of that, and the soil temperatures at night and the evening cooler temperatures. I mean, here we're already in the upper 40s, 50s, so you don't need to water quite as much. I haven't really scaled back my frequency at all. I'm still watering twice a week. What I did is I just cut the amount of water down a little bit. I was watering anywhere between 1/2 and 3/4 of an inch twice a week, and now I'm probably down to right at that 1/2 inch, maybe just a little bit less, and I'm finding that it's working out just fine. So you can scale some of your watering back, but it is still important to continue to water as long as you can up until you get to a point where you need to winterize your irrigation system, which for me is right around Thanksgiving probably, is when I start thinking about blowing the water out of the sprinkler system just to make sure nothing freezes and breaks. But here in the Pacific Northwest, by that time, it's raining pretty consistently, and so I really don't need the irrigation anyways until probably almost April or May. So question for you, what is it that you like to do in the fall time to help kickstart things and get going for the cooler weather and working your way into spring? Let me know. Leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear about it. If you found any value in this video, hit the like button, and we'll see you in the next one.